And the great thing is about tyre tests is that not only are they the most popular things on my channel in terms of you guys wanting to watch them, but also in a world of increasingly excellent equipment, it's hard to sound like a scathing reviewer about. There's still a really big spectrum between the brilliant and the bloody awful. So, where do Conti's new XC trail tyres fit on that sliding spectrum?
Hey up, I'm Guy Kestevan, the Testy Man, and today we're up at Stainburn asking the question, should you try the new Conti Trinotal?
Right, so let's go through the stats on this new Trinotal. Comes in 26, which is nice, only the one size, but you know, for the little wheelers out there, it's good to have some fresh options in theory. And then it comes in 2.2 and 2.4 in 27.5 and 29. I'm running the 29 by 2.4, and I've been testing it in race and trail carcasses and rapid and grip compounds. So basically, I've gone through the full range on the biggest, largest diameter tyre that they do. And where this tyre sits in the Conti range is basically, it's taken over from the old Cross King, which is kind of a sleeper tyre really, been around for donkey's years. But you know what? Tested it again recently, and it's not bad at all. It's got a basically centre ridge tread pattern on it, decent spacing on the shot, on the intermediate, and then, yeah, reasonably keen shoulder lugs as well. And there's a fast sort of XC crossover trail tyre, dad country, down country, whatever you want to call it. A really good tyre, especially if you're into high mileages. I wanted something really durable. But rather than carry over any of that reputation and performance, Conti have gone all new on the Trinotal. So you can see a much more spaced out sort of V arrow tread, you know, which certainly isn't uncommon. But when you look at where those side knobs are, there's literally zero projection over the edge of the carcass. And they're also very flat to the surface of the tyre, so they're almost vertical basically. And there's your special Continental hieroglyphics, which tells me that this is a grip trail Trinotal. And it does if, you know, you remember what it says on the box anyway. And rather than kind of the one size fits all protection carcass, black chili compound layup that they offered in the Cross King, like I say, you now get two different carcass types and two different compounds to choose from. And on the plus side, goes up very easily. It's the size it says it is. And the former is definitely a win for Conti. If you used to use them a while ago, they're an absolute swine to set up and work tubelessly. And now they've definitely got over that. And, you know, compared to something like a Forecaster, which is chronically undersized, it's nice that they blow up to about 62mm straight away, which is actually over 2.4. So a win there. And they feel pretty tactile once you've worn the comprehensive coating of silicon release compound off them. And carcass seems pretty stable. I'm actually running the race front and the trail rear, but I've run trail on the front as well. And there's a bit of a kind of Italian old Vittoria feel. You know, they're not as settled on the trail as something like a Schwalbe. Definitely not as settled as a Maxis. And they're a little bit lighter than most of their competitors too. Range from 690 to 710 across all the versions I've tried here. Whereas something like, you know, Schwalbe Rocket Ron around 750. Similar for a Recon or Racing Ray or Vittoria Mezcal. And they've got a relatively clean feeling roll on tarmac too. And because they're light, they accelerate pretty well when you've decided to mix some sprints in with your testing. And while their sibling tyre, the Magnotal, is meant to be, you know, the more aggressive wet weather, well, kind of all weather tyre. Whoops. I got a bit buck wild. These are actually wider spaced, and while it hasn't been wet to test the wet grip, certainly in loose and loamy stuff, these appear to be marginally gripper than the Magnotal, which is not how it's supposed to be. That's how it definitely feels on the trail. The issue I've got is they just lack confidence. Yeah, there's no other way to say it than that, really. I mean, to be honest, at the moment, it couldn't get much more flattering for tyres. And yet, with all the tread kind of perched on top, and even in this grip model, quite a plasticky feel to the knobs. There's just very little to work with getting to the lean, and then absolutely nothing in the lean. Well, there we go. Okay, nothing's maybe a bit strong, but certainly not the level of grip and bite I'd expect for something being promoted as, you know, a relatively aggressive downcountry tyre. And that's before you get wet conditions into the picture, which is where, you know, harder compounds are really going to struggle. And the rapid compound, which is really plasticky, is an absolute sketch fest. Even on dry rocks, it does that thing, you know, where it'll roll rocks you're just not expecting. Things get spat out up front or at the back. And on the front, I did actually think it might be the fork. So I've gone so far as to, you know, put a pike into the front of the Wasp, ruining that beautiful purple colourway of the Cane Creek. You know, just to make sure the testing's consistent with all the tyres. And that definitely has helped a bit. You know, these are suppler off the top. There's a bit more grip. But still, I'm having to feel myself just riding naturally, very defensively on these tyres. And that's quite a shock, because I've actually been testing the Dubnitals, which are the, you know, undoubtedly hyper fast new cross-country tyres from Conti, which are a proper recipe for rapidity. And they've actually felt a lot grippier than I was expecting to. So what you've got is a tyre that's noticeably slower, plus it's not noticeably grippier. You know, it would seem like, you know, the old Race King on the back, Crest King on the front combo was a great, you know, high durability, sort of predictable setup with a lot of speed on tap at the rear wheel. But even with the rapids on this, not been right impressed at all. Plus, while there's a tiny amount of, well, there's a diagram basically if you flick through the gallery showing that the trail has reinforced sidewalls on the outer edge and what looks like a puncture ply in the middle. I ripped through that really easily. I mean, yeah, to be fair, these Mavics do seem a little harsh on tyres compared to a flatter rim, but you know, the holes I've put in them, the pinch flats I've had, just seems like they're giving up a bit too easily. And the old Contis were actually pretty stout in terms of longevity. But if it turns out, you know, that they actually still use the same car because they've just renamed it, and you happen to know that, let me know in the comments and I'll eat my words. But the other weird thing is that, like I say, the lightest tyre, 690, I measured 2 tyres at that. The Trinotal Rapid Race, as you'd expect, the lightest model, but Trail Carcass Rapid Tread, exactly the same weight. And then the Trail Grip is only 20 grams heavier at 710. And another thing, I know it's only a pet peeve, but could they not just write grip or race or, you know, rapid or trail on the tyre, or at least have something beyond like some weird hex logo, so every time I'm trying to swap between types I have to dig out the cardboard box. I mean, props to them for having cardboard boxes and paper tape round. Thank you from the dying world for that. But it just seems like the marketing department's had more of a hand in the design of, well, to be honest, most of the new Conti range than real riders, because you're going backwards on rolling speed without any visible wins in terms of grip. Also, who still puts minimum tyre recommended pressure at 35 and max at 50 on a 29 by 2.4? Seriously, guys. Plus, it's a pretty spendy tyre as well. You know, bang up there with the premium stuff. Certainly not as cheap as something like a ground control or anything else you can find on sale. So in terms of performance, the only big positive I can really call out here is that they're 80 grams lighter than the new Magnotal, which is what I'm running here, but don't seem to lack any grip. In fact, if anything, they seem to grip better. I've been racking my brains trying to remember what that tread pattern really reminded me of. And I suddenly realised it's like the really, really, really old, I'm talking last century, Tioga Factory XC. Do you remember that? Lots of sort of slightly too high, slightly too closely spaced knobbles. With, I mean, it's got all the sipes and everything you need, but again, super bendy and just kind of toothless in terms of scale of the knobs. When you think this is a tyre that's going up against things like the specialised ground control, you know, Schwalbe knobby Nick, and potentially the Forecaster. Again, it's just not giving me anything like that grip. And I don't just mean kind of, you know, grip in the simplest sense of the word. I just mean kind of the confidence to really get these bars over. I've just noticeably been riding defensively. I mean, at first time I had them on was at Hard Rock, obviously, slippery gravel, doing a course preview with Danny Hart, which is well worth watching if you get the chance. And they felt really marbly up there. I was like, ah, well, you know, release compound, it's not really where they're supposed to shine. But I've ridden them plenty since then, because inevitably you spend more time riding the stuff that you don't think's very good, just to be doubly, triply sure. So it turns into a really labour-intensive process, just proving that these tyres are just, at best, meh. But I'm not going to do a full conclusion on these Magnotals yet, because they also come in a soft version. So there is potentially more grip out there, or though from riding the Cryptotal soft, it's not actually that soft. And to be honest, I think it's really the tread it's actually the tread pattern and where the knobs are and the size of them that's causing the real issues here. Because the carcass does feel okay. Maybe I've been a bit rude about the carcass. This trail Magnotal actually feels a bit more anchored. But I don't know if you can hear that back tyre. I mean, that's the grip trail. Still a Trino on the back. All over the place, just proper skid steering setup, which, you know, if I was running, like I say, Dubnital or any of the other sort of proper semi-slick rear options that are out there, but I absolutely love. And don't get me wrong, I'm not generally a fan of a sticky tyre, but if I'm gonna ride something that's meant to be offering me more control and grip, I'm a bit narked when it doesn't end up doing it. Although, yeah, maybe there's a little bit more on the edge of these, but then, I mean, look at it. It's absolute dry loam paradise up Stainburn at the moment. And it just, I don't know. I mean, at best they're average. Not recommended rubber. Which, considering, you know, they are a premium price, and we've had to wait so long for them, I think. Woof. See, it's a predictable slide, I guess, but shouldn't be sliding there. Not an aggro, down-country trail tyre, or however Conti's trying to sell it to us. It's just not that tyre. But then again, the Cryptotal, it kind of is, it doesn't look anything like it should, so I don't know. The super softs seem to go well for the enduro boys. And like I say, been really impressed by the Dubnital. So make sure you watch that review. But anyway, like I say, I'll try and get hold of the soft compound Magnotal and see if that suddenly miraculously restores me faith in these, you know, admittedly lightweight and easy to use Contis, but not the aggro tyre they're claiming, certainly. But, you know, that's how it goes. I bloody love their road tyres. And, you know, if you watch the Dubnital review, that's going to be a whole lot more positive when I get round to filming that, unless something weird happens between now and the camera going on. But if you're wanting a fast XC tyre, I'd skip these two and go to Dubnital, maybe even on the front, because I don't think you're missing anything in terms of grip, and you're definitely winning in terms of speed. So yeah, there's my rounded Conti review. But yeah, like, subscribe, click for notifications. If you really want to support what I'm doing here on the channel, then please consider giving one of them YouTube gifts that you can do now, or if you want to make that semi-permanent, then jump on Patreon and subscribe on a monthly basis, and then you get all these things early, extended, and without ads. So it's a slightly more palatable watching experience than me just rambling on while riding. At least you don't get other things getting in the way. But for now, I've been Guy Kestevan on Guy Kes TV, reviewing the new Continental Trinotal and half reviewing the Magnotal too.